But not before we've heard from Kim Hudson of the Council for Learning Outside the Classroom. Kim's going to talk to us about ensuring high quality and safe educational programs for schools. And yes, I think that's all I have to say. Otherwise, please show a warm welcome for Kim.
Thanks very much. Hope you can hear me. Normally when I speak, I'm walking all over the place, so I'm feeling quite restricted here. I've got to stay here, so apologies if I start walking off and forget myself. But one thing, I've come from deepest, darkest Wales, right on as far as possible over, and I'm staying with my parents, and I realised I didn't have my watch. So my mum, bless her, lent me hers. However, she forgot to tell me it's a wind-up watch. Well, she did. She left me a note. It is wind-up, don't forget. And I haven't wound it up. So if I keep checking my phone, I do apologise. But it just demonstrated to me how things are moving on so much at the moment, aren't they? And coming to the conference today, I was really quite taken aback by how much or how many of the exhibitors are talking about digital experiences now. It seems to have moved on quite a lot over the last year, and especially since COVID, we're moving that way. And there's one thing I would say from this whole talk. Our organisation, we do a lot of listening. Yeah, we listen to schools, we listen to providers, we try and work out what people need. And that's for yourselves. If you're going to offer a high quality education programme, that is the most important thing. To tell you a bit about myself, I am the Accreditations and CPD manager for Council for Learning Outside the Classroom. But in my previous life, I was a marine biologist, followed by a secondary school teacher in science, but then went on to run 2 field centres. I've designed concept diagrams and all the text and got together all the photos for 3 different visitor centres. So I've kind of been in your shoes. And as I say, you often get very entrenched in what you're doing, on the day-to-day things that you're doing. And it's really important to have that outward look as well, so that you are listening to what the schools are wanting. And we've just run a conference recently, back in March, and one of our sessions was all about just hearing from 3 different types, so primary, secondary, and SEND, to hear what are their pressures at the moment. So this talk, we're going to be talking about what we can support you on, but it's also about those messages that they gave to us, what they need from you to ensure it's high quality. Okay. Hopefully some of you are on that screen there, some photos of some of the museums and heritage sites around the UK. But what do all of these museums and many more have in common? Well, they all hold the quality badge, the LOtC Quality Badge. Now I'm going to do something to you now to liven you up. But if you can't do this, then feel free to just stay sitting down. But I'd really like to know, could you please stand up? And I should say to you standing up, bob down. But could you, and you could just raise your hands if you're standing. So could you stand up if you have heard of the LOtC Quality Badge before? Oh. Okay, so yeah, less than half of you. So I'm glad I'm here then to raise awareness of it. Can you put your hands up or stand up if you hold the LOtC Quality Badge, if your site that you work at holds that badge already? Way, well done. Good. Well, maybe they'll be able to give you some comments later on how it's worked for them. So the LOtC Quality Badge, it's the only national award that assesses both risk management and educational provision across all types of learning. So that is museums and heritage. It's, well, and I put lots of words on the screen, by the way, because I was worried about the noise. So there are lots of words for you to read, so have a look on there. But yeah, botanical gardens, it's field centres, adventure centres, it's expeditions abroad, study tours abroad. It's one badge that schools are looking for. And it's been around for many years because over 10 years ago, the government at the time set it up, and then it was passed on to us to manage. And it's recognised by Department of Education within England, and the Welsh Government also acknowledge it. So it's what schools are looking for. It's the only badge, really, that they are all now being told to look for, in that, especially since COVID, some of the local authorities are asking the schools, well, we've actually had a few that have said they cannot visit a site unless they hold it. Now, that is not true. It's a bit frustrating for us because we just want schools getting students out and about. So we're working really hard to try and find funders who are be able to help you get that badge in the future. But as I say, people are looking for it. Multi-academy trusts are looking for it. And it just means it reduces your paperwork. So if you have a school coming to you and you normally would fill out an external provider form, you wouldn't need to do that. At the top it says, do you hold the quality badge? Tick that box. Some schools and multi-academy trusts may still ask for some paperwork, but the majority will not. But some, their governors are still very protective and want to have it in their hand. But it's not just about accreditation, and this is the really important bit, because it is a framework that really helps you to consider all aspects of your provision. So I mentioned before that I've been a head of centre, 2 centres. You get entrenched on things, and you might be so involved in the education side that you forget about the other bits. Or it might be that that's someone else's job, so you assume that it's happening. And this quote at the bottom here, this feedback we got last week, I can't mention who it is because the reason they wrote the quote was quite serious. They are a very well-known, renowned arts organisation. And when they came, it was the education officer started working through the form and found that they had had an electrical testing and their certificate, but they were told that they had some things that they really urgently had to do. Now, those things hadn't been actioned, but because of staff changes, we've all had a lot of staff changes over the last couple of years, it had fallen by the wayside. And I wouldn't have approved a school to go to that site if I'd seen that electrical report. So this was a comment from the member of staff just saying, thank you. There was a lot more detail to her comments as well, just saying, yes, our estates team are now on it. We're going to totally review all our procedures to ensure this never happens again. So it's a framework that helps you to ensure you have everything in place to make it as safe as possible for schools, but obviously that's for general public as well. So it benefits all of your clients. So what I wanted to share with you, though, was I had hoped to have a quality badge holder along with us today, but we were trying to target ones in London, and they were all teaching, and so we couldn't get them here. So I've taken some things from them, and as I said, some things that our schools are telling us. So the quality badge looks at various different areas, which are in those bold writings there. So we have criteria that looks at the quality of learning experiences delivered. And these are some of the things that you would need to be thinking about. So because of time, we all used to pretty much offer just off-the-peg activities. And that's a real no-no for schools these days. Yes, we have our framework of you have your program of what you might offer, but we are going to increasingly need to be offering a variety within that. A lot of you will be doing this. Maybe I'm teaching you to suck eggs, but you need to be thinking about those learning outcomes. How do you capture those and how do you respond? This wasn't a school visit, but the other day I heard of a trainer who had gone in to do some teacher training, asked them teachers what they needed beforehand and still delivered what he wanted to deliver and not what they wanted. And now he's got a really bad reputation from it. And we need to be responding to what those teachers need because that's the one thing that all teachers are telling us, they are time poor. They are very time poor. The curriculum is really tight. And now, with the cost of travel, it is getting worse and worse. And we've had some areas where coach companies are shutting down as well. So getting out to you is even harder. So to justify getting out to you, it's got to really, really meet their needs. So you've got to be listening to them. And later on here, I've put, so working with local schools, make sure you're talking to them. Have those. I'm sure a lot of you are. And I know Leeds, hopefully you've seen the exhibition over there for Leeds museums. They work really well with their schools. We had them speaking at our conference. And they really are trying to meet those needs. But also visit local schools, because one thing that I find is if you haven't been, you might have been teaching 20 years ago. Kids have changed. Oh my God, haven't they changed? Especially since COVID. Like what used to be yeah, your year sevens used to be quite mature. Now, because of COVID, they're still running around wanting to play with sticks and swords all the time. So get in there. But before, it used to be, I found that people, when I was going into sites, so I've been an assessor for the badge for about 8 years, and when I went into sites, often I would find year 5 and 6 weren't being pushed enough. They weren't. Now, actually, I haven't assessed any in the last couple of years, so I don't know what COVID's done there. But it was that, so it is, if you get into local schools and just say, can I please come and observe a lesson, to see how they talk to their children, see how what sort of content they are covering. But it's really important so that you get an understanding. Engage before and after your visit. So we would look that you are engaging fully. So that is giving them resources beforehand, but finding out what they have covered before. There is nothing worse. And again, I've been on an assessment and people have come up and the teachers afterwards said, well, actually, we've done all that before. Yeah, and they haven't added that progression. So it's really important to capture, find out from the staff and then from the pupils on the day, what have you done before? And then also afterwards, support them after their visit. Get that feedback. That feedback's really important for you. Have you added value to their education? And that's one thing we're really working hard with schools. Last year I spoke at a lot of conferences towards the end of the year to about 300 schools in total, and only one of those could tell me that they fully evaluated the impact of their LOTC. And I was totally shocked. I was like, well, you evaluate your maths, you evaluate your literacy. Why are you not evaluating the quality of your LOTC? And more to the point, how do you justify it to parents? And it's quite sad, actually. My partner's sons go to a secondary school in mid Wales, and we are pretty backwards over there, I have to say. And he said to me the other day, we do nothing. We don't go on any visits. We just go to Oakwood theme park. And I take that back, he's just been to Euro Disney. But that is all they have done. He's been there 3 years now, and that's all they have done. And they just have a whole school visit to Oakwood. And it's got to be that whatever you do adds value, yeah? And that we can justify why we're taking them. Because I'm going to get in that school soon and sort them out if I can. I've just got to learn Welsh before I do. The other thing I put on here is pre-visit online sessions. Now, quite a few museums and some of our Quality Badge holders were doing this really well during COVID. Because you couldn't get out, you were offering virtual tours. Now, some people have carried that on, and I would really encourage that. If you've got time, please do. The reason why, it gives the children an opportunity to plan their learning. It gets them far more involved. As I say, having run centres before, you get the kids, they turn up, they get off, wah, and it's that awe and wonder of being there. But they're not really involved in their learning. I used to take them, march them down, bit upon dip, and march them here, do this, back on the coach, they're off. Woo, there's their day visit done. So it's really important to involve them. And that pre-visit online session, if you can give them a tour, that then allows them to come up with their own learning objectives. And it also allows them they've met you, yeah? And they're not so scared of you then. So when they get off the coach, there's still the awe and wonder, but they're like, oh yeah, right, well I want to know about this and that. And the same as when it comes to after, even offering them as a post-visit. Could it be that actually they've come up with some even more questions of what they would like to know? And could you then say, well, actually, yeah, I'll take you to that exhibition. I'll take you. So just have a think. Is that an opportunity? And there's so much, as I said earlier, the digital age is here. I don't ever want it to stop schools coming out to you, but we have got to adapt. With ourselves, our CPT program, people aren't coming to our live sessions online. So they're coming to the recordings. So we're now, all right, well, we might as well just do recordings. We're wasting people's time otherwise. So we have to constantly be changing at the moment. The other things we look at, so displays and resources being fit for purpose. I've been to some sites and I have the attention span of about a 5-year-old. So I'm not very good in museums, I have to say. They have to be very, very interactive for me. And so I've been to sites to assess, and I found them very hard. And it's your job then, isn't it, as education officers, or whatever your role is in encouraging schools there, to make sure that your resources pick out the information in a fun and exciting way. So again, that's something we would look at in particular. I'm not going to tell you how to do your jobs because I don't have a clue where you're all from, so I can't give you advice on it in particular. So then, reviewing learner progress, helping the staff to realise how can they work out how their learners have progressed during their time with you. Now that's really hard. If you're a day visit, that's a really hard thing to do, to see that progress within that time. So that's why the pre and post is really important. But also, that activity I did with you earlier, stand up, I do it all sorts. I act like a monkey, rub your head, rub your belly, if you know this or if you get this. So you're getting feedback from the children. There's lots of assessment for learning techniques, which we use a lot in outdoor learning, but you could also use within a museum setting as well, to get instant feedback on the day. And I put on there about ongoing staff and volunteer training. And that's an important one because we often will train people up and then we don't often keep that training going. And it is important. Again, with changes of staff, we've gone in for assessments and found that training is not up to date. But also making sure that volunteers are trained as much as your staff if you're getting that volunteer to lead any sessions for you. So I've observed where, one person has been really good, the education officer, and then the volunteers have been not so good, or the other way round as well. I've seen amazing volunteers and the education staff know nothing. So sharing experiences, making sure they're trained and keep that training going. So when it comes to quality of risk management and safeguarding, that's the next section that we look at. And this is changing a bit at the moment. We've been reviewing the quality badge so that it's fit for purpose all the time. We've just had new statutory guidance within schools on safeguarding, and we will be making sure people understand how that influences yourselves as off-site visits. But you need to be ensuring that staff and volunteers are fully aware of what is expected of them from risk management and staff safeguarding. So for an assessment, we would try and talk to anybody there, not just the person showing us around. Because again, key members of staff might know, but does that volunteer know what to do if they've just disclosed some information? Yeah, do they? And I have to say, I've put here common sense approach to risk management. I went into a very, very, an organisation who has lots and lots of sites and was given a 44-page child protection document. Okay, I didn't read it all, and I'm pretty certain none of their staff have ever read it all. That to me, not to us, we all reviewed it and had a right laugh because it's got to be minimal. It's got to be able to be read. It's got to be able to be reviewed. Nobody is going to read that document in full. No volunteer is going to. So you do have to make sure that it is, that common sense approach and minimal documentation. And we need the example I gave earlier of the electrical issue at one site. You need a system that ensures monitoring and ensures accountability. So lots of us now have online building compliance systems that flag up when you need testing doing, but you need to make sure that's being used properly. And if you haven't got one, I would highly recommend it, or even just a spreadsheet, but something that helps you flag when your different certificates are needing renewed or risk assessments need reviewing. As I mentioned, statutory guidance has changed in schools in England with regards to safeguarding. And there is another safeguarding document, and as I said, on our website soon there will be more information on that. But if you don't know about it, make sure you do. Keep up to date with it. And then I've added on this one, fire safety for Night in the Museum offers. I love the idea of Night in the Museum. Natural History Museum were offering dinosaurs. Sea Life Centres were doing sleepovers in the shark tunnels. But were they fully risk assessed? Yeah, it's really important that, and they were, by the way, that you get a fire officer involved in that risk assessment. That building, a shark tunnel, is not designed to have a load of children sleeping in the dark at night, is it? If there's an event of a fire, it's quite a high risk area to be in. So you do need to make sure, if you're going to introduce something like that, that you do get the relevant people involved. I would love to see more of those. But just to give you an insight, Nottingham City Council, I think it was, a few weeks back, they banned all campovers in the school grounds and campovers in their school halls, because they had realised that the fire officers weren't the fire, fire, what do you call them? The fire brigade. They used to come in and do free checks for people, and in most areas that had stopped, and these schools and others weren't getting the fire safety checked. So they said until further notice they wanted to put those on hold. So we're working with them at the moment to try and get them reinstated. So the third thing that we look for, and what we believe is quality, is about customer care. It's ensuring your promotion materials are really clear, and that if you say what you're going to be charged, that they are going to be charged that there's not going to be hidden extras. And if you say that they have to pay up front and they're not going to get any money back if something goes wrong, then they need to know that. There's got to be some protection, or there has to be some way of letting them know that that isn't in place, that they need to get insurance to cover it. So that's really important. Monitoring, evaluating and reviewing. I mentioned how important it was for schools, but it is for you too. Again, we've come across places where they monitor, they evaluate, they get them to fill in the forms, but do they review them as well? So ensure that you review everything. You should be going through it, acting on it, revisiting it the next year. Has it improved? Have we changed? Have we got better learning outcomes now for our students that are visiting? Meeting the needs of all users, so equality, diversity, dietary needs. Dietary, I have to say, being gluten intolerant, lactose intolerant and many other things intolerant, that is something that a lot of centres do fall down on. But in a lot of museum centre settings or heritage settings, you've got a proper cafe on site, so hopefully they're up on that. But just be careful of it, because we did have an incident on an inspection day. Our sister turned up to an ambulance arriving, where by mistake a member of staff had only just started, hadn't had training on everything, and a child had been fed something with milk in, which they shouldn't. It was a sausage, but it had milk powder in. There's hidden ingredients they didn't realise, and the child hadn't pointed it out. The child was totally fine. It was total precaution. But again, it's something to be aware of. So make sure your training of your staff in that respect is up to date. Data protection. Now, data protection has changed so much. We had GDPR, the EU GDPR, now we have the UK one, but now there's a whole new digital age. And an Ofsted inspection, so not to do with us, but an Ofsted inspector picked up on the fact that a member of staff was working on their laptop and they had a live camera on their laptop. Now, the camera was on this side, the children were over there, so nothing was untoward, but that was put in their report. So it's like, whoa. So it's a changing world, so you've got to keep up with these things. Make sure you are reviewing these things regularly. And then I put this on here, reach out to families. And I'm sure you've got your own ways of doing this, but I love this. This is from a field centre up in Yorkshire. What they do is they have some printed postcards, and they put a sticker on, and it's a bit of work and a bit of expense, but they put a sticker on depending on what that group have done with them while they've stayed. And it's to go home to the parents to say not only what to do, but what questions to ask. Because often parents don't know what questions to ask. They're like, oh, did you have a nice time? Did you eat lots of sweets? Oh, did anyone get hurt? But no, get them deeper conversations. What is it you learned about the Aztecs? What did you learn about, I don't know, the artwork of the various things? But then also on that postcard you can offer a discount to the family. Because that child is now an expert in your site, they often want to share what they've experienced with their parents, with you. So they want to share it with their parents. So offering them a discount on that postcard and they come back with it is a really nice idea of connecting with home and getting more families into your site. And then we also look for other aspects, so sustainability. So obviously the global sustainability and advocacy as well for environmental and historical protection. And my other top tip is about networking with other venues to share good practice. And today is a brilliant example of that, but also on a local level. Talk to each other. In fact, I was talking to a lady in the ambience area earlier, and she was asking for advice on how to get more schools to come to them because they were a new site and they were really struggling with it. It's not a good time to be a new site, I feel. But one thing I suggested was, so they're based in the Peak District, and there's loads of residential centres there. So I said to them, well, as a residential before, we used to join up with another venue because we couldn't have them in on a changeover day till the afternoon. So could you then say, well, I'll be available to you in the morning, so my site, and then you go to your residential in the afternoon. So it's about joint working. And I know we're quite protective. We're all trying to get those kids out to see us, but we've all got to work in partnership to get this to work for the children. So yeah, have a think about how you could network with others. So I shall check my phone now. I should just, I am checking the time. I won't bother looking at this, which is 12:15 because I haven't wound it up. So we've got a few more moments there. So hopefully that's given you a few ideas. As I said, it's about what our staff are telling us, what teachers are telling us, and we're talking to them every single day. Just to tell you a bit about our organisation then, Council for Learning Outside the Classroom, we work closely with all different sectors. As I mentioned, the Quality Badge covers all sectors, and we try to talk to you all. So we lobby government as well, and so our CEO is chairing a group at the moment who are talking with Department for Education. And I'll come to a slide in a moment which tries to get you involved. I'll just mention this bit. So these are just some ideas of why to apply for the Quality Badge. So the one good thing for museums, as long as you're not doing night in the museum and you're not doing anything high risk, so museum and heritage sites, it's £180, which isn't too much money. If you think you're getting that framework, you're getting also greater promotion because we promote you as much as possible on social media. You can advertise jobs, events, case studies through us. We've just increased our staffing, so we're really raising the profile and we're really looking to expand as much as possible. We're looking for funders at the moment, as I mentioned, to try and get some funding to give smaller venues the opportunity to have the Quality Badge. And we've got a new online system to help improve, if I ever get it working properly, to improve our customer experience. So I'm just going to gloss over that, but you can have a look at this another time. But we are changing at the moment. We've got a form which will be changing towards the end of the year just to bring in those current guidance that's changing. But the other thing that is powerful about the Quality Badge is if you ever did have a complaint, we're there to support you. So I don't think we've ever had a complaint about a museum or heritage site, but we do about outdoor learning now and then. And we take those complaints very seriously. But it just means that you're accountable. So we will go in, we will investigate, and we will talk to the school, we will talk to yourselves, and then it just means that we're there so we can communicate to the client, so the school, that you are putting in those actions that you've promised. So they're reassured, but then you've got that backup. So we're there for you. So this is the bit that I'd like to get some of you involved in. So we used to have sector partnerships. So they are where we've got sectors, so we've outdoor learning sector. We used to have our museum sector, which is chaired by Jem, and we used to have a heritage one chaired by Historic England. And now, and because of COVID, it fell by the wayside. So we've just been talking to Jem today. We'll be getting those up and running again. So they're for people who really want to give us information that will help us lobby the governments to try and get some change. At the moment, we're working very much on trying to get some financial support for people, and yeah, lots of different things. So the email on there, inquiries at, if you would like to get involved at all, then please do get in touch with us. The other thing that we do offer is we have membership, so that's different to the Quality Badge, and I won't go through all of that, but one thing you might be interested in, that membership gives you free CPD with us. And I mentioned earlier that we do face-to-face online ones, but we're also going to do a series of shorter webinars, and that's free to members, but you can also pay £45 to attend those. And these were ones we ran at our conference, and they were so popular, people have asked us to put them back on again. So the first one in particular is the 3 different schools that will explain what is going on for them in school at the moment. So you can find out all that information on our website. As a member as well, you can also look at what the schools are being told, so that helps as well. But we're really, really working hard at the moment. We've just got a big injection of staff, which is great because everyone's come back fully after COVID and other leave that we've had. So we're really passionate about supporting the Museum and Heritage Centre in particular. So please, please do get in touch. If you want to know about membership, the email's there. If you want to know about Quality Badge, that email's there, or just the inquiries one. And we would love to talk to you because it is very much an area we want to expand. As I said, we'd like to find funders. So if any of you have pots of money and you want to fund us to support the rest of you, that's great. But just talk to us. Tell us what you need and we'll see what we can do. We're not experts in museums. We're not experts in heritage, but we're good at bringing you all together. So that's it from me, and thank you very much for listening. Hope you've had a lovely day, and safe journeys.